Got a question for you. What would you do if you thought you were safe from a flood because the property you purchased was outside the 100-year floodplain, but the torrential rain from last month changed this and your basement flooded? Mine did that in 2009. Would you feel confused? Would you be devastated? We got a listener question from Jason in Alpharetta. What exactly is the 100 and 500-year floodplain? How do we determine if the house we're buying is safe from flooding? Well, the reality is even if you're outside of the 100-year floodplain, it does not mean the property is safe from flooding. My property is outside of the 100-year floodplain, and the entire basement flooded in 2009. Now, it didn't flood for any reason other than the water table got high and my foundation drains didn't work. If my foundation drains had worked, I would not have any problems, but because the foundation drains, that's a pipe that's sort of underneath and beside the foundation meant to drain off the water. And because they didn't work, then water filled up and came in the basement. A 500-year floodplain, if you're inside a 500-year floodplain, it means you have a 0.2% chance of flooding. There is a 1% chance of flooding if you're in a 100-year floodplain. So it is 1 out of 100, 1%. People say all the time that their property hasn't flooded in 100 years. There's no way it's in a 100-year flood zone, and that's a pretty reasonable thing to say when we think about a 100-year flood, but we got to put some meaning behind it. So basically, if you look at a FEMA flood map and think that because you're outside the 100-year flood zone that you are safe from flooding, you could very well be wrong. With enough rain, anything will flood, and we still can't predict the weather very well. We are really all in a flood zone of some sort when you think about it. A line has to be drawn, though, which is why FEMA creates flood maps. Let's look at this. If you're in a 25-year flood zone, you have a 71% chance of being flooded over a 30-year mortgage. 50-year flood zone, you have a 45% chance of being flooded over a 30-year mortgage. A 100-year flood zone gives you a 26% chance of being flooded over 30 years. And a 500-year flood zone gives you a 6% chance of being flooded over a 30-year mortgage. So a 100-year floodplain does not mean that it's not possible for you to get flooded. It means the chances are 1 in 100 that you will be flooded, and I think it's 1 in 100 every year when you think about it. Chances are much higher when you look at how the numbers really, really work.